Afternoon, everyone.
Hi,
Hello.
Graham.
Thursday evening, a little change of pace for us. So appreciate everyone adjusting their schedule. Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late. Let's see. I think looks like we have an agenda. I mean, a quorum here already. Let's see. Is there anyone else? I think we can probably get started. 5:32. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Item number 2, public comment.
There's
Raquel,
no
is there
one present.
anyone?
No,
Good.
there's no public.
Good. I mean, good that we asked. Item number 3, approval of prior minutes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve them.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Sharon, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Old business, none. New business, architect construction manager and OPM report. So Justin, you want to update us on where you've been doing the last couple of weeks?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Most of this discussion will be involved around the bid results as well as the GMP. So I won't take steal any thunder for Adam or Nick. I can tell you that Tecton has been participating in the pre-construction activities, preparing some early bid package submittal review. We're scheduling OAC meetings on the site with Colliers and Gilbane. And the one thing that I wanted to bring up this evening was Woody had asked about a potential PV array size to achieve net zero on the school. So our current EUI at the elementary school is 22. Based on the overall size of the school, we would need a 580 kW array in order to achieve net zero on the property. That it would be the equivalent of approximately 36,800 square feet of solar panels on the roof. For reference, our current available roof area is 59,146. So if we're assuming we do have, that doesn't take into account some of the skylights that we have in the gym, some of the vents, et cetera. So if we assume that there's a 25%, circulation factor away from skylights, et cetera, we would have approximately 44,359 square feet available for a PV array. Which is more than what the required amount would be to achieve net zero at the building. So I had forwarded this to the chair and Adam, Woody, I don't know if you have it yet, but that's all.
Yes, I have Craig's comments.
Yep. Okay, great.
Wonderful. And he's actually he's conservative because, he has a 10% degradation factor in, and my little PV company owns 18 systems, and we're not seeing anywhere near what the prior projections were for diminishment of output over the years. So it's, we could probably, if we needed to, make it 550 and cover ourselves. It wouldn't be an issue. So that's wonderful.
Great. Okay.
And
Yeah,
pricing is wonderful right now.
I've yet to meet an engineer that wasn't conservative, Woody. So that aids us in some respects, but for this, probably your analysis is spot on.
Great, thanks, Justin.
Yep.
And we'll work with Woody to figure out how to procure that, obviously, with the the money. Great. All set for Justin? You all set? Got it. Beautiful. Moving over to Adam. You want to update us on Colliers?
Yeah, I'll let Nick talk about the GMP in general. It just came through today, so and by today I mean a couple hours ago. So we're as I'll show you in the calendar, the key task will be reviewing that and then working with Gilbane and coming through to make sure all the exclusions and conditions and dates and some costs and all those other things get ironed out. So we'll look at that in the next week or so. But for my part, the only thing I wanted to add on the side here, in addition to just reiterating the general startup and construction activities, is there was a motion and an award by the Board of Selectmen, I believe it was on the 26th, with regard to the builder's risk insurance for the project. You'll ultimately see that come through in the GMP because the award was made for Gilbane. They had the policy and pricing that the town felt was most competitive and best suited for the project. So again, nothing earth shattering, but just sort of reporting back to this group on something that got approved on the town finance risk side of things that affects the project. So I think that's the only thing we need to talk about at this section, and then I'll talk a little more once we get into procurement and invoices and schedule.
Got it. Ready to turn it over to Nick then?
Yep.
Your chance to shine now. You got it.
Yes, thank you, Adam. Good evening, everyone. As Adam mentioned, we submitted our guaranteed maximum price proposal earlier today, which is one day behind schedule. There were a couple of last minute hurdles we had to overcome in terms of some lead time and fabrication information that we received yesterday afternoon. But as far as schedule goes, we've been on site all week. Well, let me back up. We've been on site Monday and Tuesday working with our site contractor in Langen to do some soil sampling, and then we will be on site tomorrow. The tree contractor's mobilizing, and then Monday the temporary fence contractor will be mobilizing to start the temporary fence work. So once we get that fence up and then all the silt fence and sediment erosion control measures in place, probably through next week and maybe a little bit into the following, you'll start to see, if you drive by, some piles of dirt starting to form and some machines running across site. So we are at that point where the project, the construction phase of the project anyway, is officially here. So, which is exciting. Any questions?
I think so moving on to item number 5, review potential award of procurement items, vote to approve. Adam, you wanna explain
Yes.
the little backstory here?
Yes, no problem. So also share my screen so you can see the documents as we go through. There are 2 items up for approval tonight. First is our friends over at Langen as an additional service to the contract that we have with them so far. So if you recall, I forget if it was last meeting or the meeting before, there was an authorization for Langen for some services to help develop a soil management plan and kind of identify what needs to happen with the site. Zooming out a bit, the project was, before we even started doing design, there was the intention to have a balanced site in terms of keeping the soil that's on site. You kind of do your cuts, you do your fills, and you fill in the holes with the plots that you needed to cut from other places. Ultimately, that wasn't possible based on a number of factors, the amount of parking we needed, some wetlands, et cetera, et cetera. So some of the soil needs to be sent off-site. And when you send the soil off-site, you need to ensure that it's been tested, so that way, wherever it goes, understands what the composition of the soil is. So tonight's ad service, which is for $61,400, contemplates all that testing that's needed because some of the soil has to go off-site. So it's been coordinated with Langen and Gilbane and Tecton and their sub-consultants to characterize the various locations across the site that need to have the testing done. And as Nick mentioned, some of that initial authorization that was given to Langen helped get us kick-started. This is largely for the actual laboratory fees, now that we know what the extent of the testing needs to happen and how many samples we need and the turnaround times and things like that. So it's a result of a lot of good time-sensitive work with Gilbane and the design team and Langen to try to get this scope ironed out, so that way we can keep moving with the soil activities. Any questions on any of that?
Do you want to vote on this one, Adam, separately, or you want to do both the
It's up to you. We
stormwater
can do one at a time just to keep it moving if you like. I have the draft motions I can put on the screen
Okay,
as
yeah,
well.
let's see if we have would anyone like to make a motion? Or want to share the screen?
I move to approve an additional service in the amount of $61,400 for soil characterization and testing to Langdon per their proposal dated 2/29/2024.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Woody, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. The
Stormwater.
second item is for the state and local required stormwater monitoring services. So this was the RFP that I had said was out on the street a meeting or two ago. And so we got the results back on Monday. The low bidder, it's an RFP, so there are quality components to it. But their price is also obviously a key consideration. The four firms that submitted were Barton and LaJuicy, Benish, Langen, and Nafis and Young. Low bidder was ultimately Nafis and Young, and just looking at their references, coordinating with the scope required, they seem to provide a reasonable and responsive bid that was ultimately 24,500. The next lowest price was 55,000. Looking kind of digging into it, Nafis and Young, the principal that be performing the work actually lives very close to the site. And with these types of services, often travel distance is the thing that's going to drive up the price. So the other firms happen to be farther away. They can't just roll out of their driveway and be at the site very quickly. So there's some favorable pricing that the project can glean just based on, I guess, happenstance, but otherwise just the location of the firm. So the recommendation from Colliers to the committee is for Nafis and Young for 24,500 for these services. I'll put that on the screen.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
Sure, I will. Motion to award stormwater monitoring services to Nafis and Young Engineers per their proposal dated 3/4/2024 in the amount of 24,500.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sharon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I think that's it for the awards. I can move on to the invoice packet if you like.
Yeah, item 6, review of invoice packets. So go ahead.
So fairly small packet this evening in terms of the new stuff. Some of it is just cost assigned to the project by the town. So invoice from Colliers for $6,300. Some staffing charges to the project from the town for $68. And then there was a round of bonding costs through the town as part of the referendum. So the school's share of those costs was $103,000 for a total of $110 and $61.60. $110,061.60.
Thank you. If you could pull up the motion.
Yep.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. Motion to approve invoice packet dated March 7th, 2024, including an invoice from Colliers and the town, payments for town staffing and multiple vendors for bonding costs for a total approval of $110,061.60.
Thank you, George. Do we have a second?
Don't leave me
Second
hanging.
it. I'll second it.
Okay. Thanks, Amanda. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Excellent. Moving on to item number 7, review of upcoming schedule. Adam, if you can pull up your
My
calendar.
colorful calendar here. So tonight, obviously, we just had our meeting this evening. As Nick mentioned, site prep work with additional site prep work and sort of the starting of some of the mobilization next week, fencing, soil erosion, that sort of thing. All next week, in addition to tomorrow, we'll be doing GMP contract reviews. We're really getting into the nitty gritty there on all the various stipulations and requirements and confirming the basis for the GMP. I think it's like 135 pages or something like that of all the backups and addenda and all that. So Tecton has that as well as Colliers, and we're working close with to Nick to get that ironed out. In general, the goal would be to have that ready, ironed out, and ready to go for approval on the next SBC meeting, which is currently scheduled for the 18th. If for some reason there's additional cleanup items that need to happen to push that out, we might be looking to reschedule so that way we can get this signed and behind us. So I'll obviously be in communication with Graham and you all and Raquel to make sure that we're aligning the meeting schedule to facilitate any approvals. And then there is a Board of Selectmen meeting on the 25th. So since they've requested that this go before them as well, that would be the target to get their final blessing and approval of the GMP contract there. In terms of just additional dates and topics, in the original packet it was the 14th, but we're looking instead to have the OAC kickoff on the 21st of March. Just kind of get things moving in terms of some of the procedure, and there'll be weekly construction meetings with Gilbane and Tecton and Colliers and any other sub-consultants in the field. But this will be sort of the genesis of those meetings as we check in to monitor construction progress and work through RFIs, requests for information, and any change orders and things like that. In terms of some of the other hot button issues, I'll say, when it comes to budget and alternates and what to do with project monies, that will be some of the discussion as part of the GMP contract review. There is the potential for electing alternates, and there'll be timeframes for doing so, and I'll help outline that process. But again, we want to make decisions on those quickly, so there will likely be some communications to not only yourselves, but the Board of Selectmen and Board of Education about what the alternate scope is and what some of the recommendations might be to ensure that the project budget is aligned with GMP and any potential needs or contingencies we see coming down the line. Also, we'll be looking to target a Board of Education update to give just them an update of what's going on. I've been working with Zoe and Dr. Cook, and I think Seth has been on those communications as well, just to see when it might make sense to have an update. And the other just notion is that we had a meeting with Dr. Cook and Peggy to talk about tentative groundbreaking ceremonies. Based on the site and the fact that it's remote, there isn't real parking. It'll be kind of a muddy dirt mess for a while there. It'll likely be a smaller groundbreaking ceremony, just targeted to staff and representatives from the state and that sort of thing. But that's likely targeted that first week of April, potentially April 3rd. I'm still ironing out the specifics, but that's the kind of sense of when that will want to be. And then all through April, we'll flesh this out more as we get into it. But really, we're looking at earthwork for the next number of weeks throughout the site. So as we get into further school building committee meetings, we'll provide greater clarity as to what you can kind of see going up as we go from earthwork to concrete work to steel work, etc. So the packets will change slightly in terms of some of the schedules and the visuals that get provided as we move into construction. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. First got to get mobilized and start getting up there in earnest. So, any questions on schedule?
Great, thanks for taking us through that, Adam. Number 8, public comment. Do we have anyone from the public?
No, we don't.
Got it. Moving on to item number 9, remarks. I assume everyone saw that the school's officially been named the Neck River School. So we can start putting those on our documents as opposed to the new school. So I think the consensus was a pretty good choice. I was pulling for Bob London myself, but you know, I was a dark horse candidate, Bob, but you're muted, but I'm sure it was a gracious comment that you said. Taffy Bowles, my kids were huge fans of Taffy Bowles, but if you knew her, she was a wonderful person. So is a wonderful person, but she didn't make the final cut, unfortunately. So and I'm sure Woody's thinking about the solar, and I know it's solar ready, but we'll have to think about how we procure that, a PPA, or I know Woody, you're an advocate of direct purchase.
Well,
So
especially if we get money based on the bill that I'm not sure where it's going, whether it'll be in time or not, but it's a pretty wonderful bill targeted to help schools pay for PV and batteries. Not that we have to do batteries, but those two things are highlighted and we'll get extra money for that. So if that happens, you don't want a PPA. I don't think you want a PPA anyway, but if you surely don't want a PPA if that money is based on the school purchasing it.
Yeah, if we have the capital money, I mean, we potentially will have additional capital money depending, the bid alternates, and as everyone recalls, we did let the city and the town know that we would, before we spent any money, we let them know what the plan was. So we'll see. Hopefully, I've already started pitching it to Peggy that we should carve out some of that money for your PV, for your net zero building. So and I'm sure you're doing the same thing. So
I'm not directly, but
yeah, okay.
certainly the best I can. I mean, honestly, guys, it's a long-term savings to the Board of Education and the taxpayers of Madison to not have to pay for utilities. And
Yeah, I think everyone would agree. It's just the referendum cap is as it has always been, relative to that.
right, but we're getting so much back. We just need to take a look at it. The cost differential between the PPA and doing it that way is so severe that you need to take a look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, and the price of panels is continuing to drop, but I heard through the grapevine there's going to be some big news on Buy America requirements, that are going to make it more stringent.
Not a surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be difficult for them to do it in 2024 because people are already buying, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I don't think it'll be impossible. I really don't. So we do have to be careful.
So you saw the article. There was an article in the Times or the Journal this morning about Chinese production and panel costs. So I assume you saw that.
No, I didn't read it yet.
Oh.
I did see it. Too much babysitting.
Yeah. Any other comments, remarks? No, we're getting close. We should have a construction fence out soon. That's always a major milestone. That and the ribbon cutting, my two favorite events. Got it. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
We have a second?
Sure.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Aye. Take care. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
Have a good night.